You're watching PowerNation.
Today on Detroit Muscle, Tommy and I run this Olds around the track to see what this 83 Hurst could do at its worst. Then, we put some new shoes on and improve its stability so it can support all the ponies we'll be adding under the hood.
Now, we're not building a race car, but we are here at the racetrack to have a bit of fun.
That's right, we're going to be addressing four main pillars of performance: speed, acceleration, handling, and braking.
I bet it's going to be a little bit more like swerving on the handling side of things. Let's flip a coin to see who gets to drive first.
I don't know, you take a break. You've been working hard. I got this.
That calls me a loser. Took a minute for that second one to kick in though. Now there's an actual reason why we do this. Some say it's because you're trying to clean the tires off, and some say it's because you're putting heat in it for better traction. You could say it just looks cool and it sounds cool, and who doesn't like the smell of tire smoke?
Bucket list item, check.
Now so far, watching this old run up and down the track hasn't been too bad. None of it was really impressive because it doesn't make all that much horsepower. But I have to say is once we put quite a bit more grunt up under the hood, well, it's probably going to be more fun than a night out square dancing. I don't know if that's good or not though, really, now I think about it. We've moved on from the strip over here to the parking lot to continue our festivities of a good time.
We're going to move on to the next phase of testing, which would be the handling. Now from the factory, these Hurst Olds had a little bit beefier suspension than your standard Cutlass, including upgraded front and rear sway bars and heavy duty springs.
But that stuff will only carry you so far. That 40-year-old technology, well, we're anticipating what that thing's gonna do is flip-flop back and forth around those cones.
Well, there's only one way to find out. I'm riding with you.
Well, that's cool with me. Not driving hard enough. I can tell because you aren't gripping them handles at all. You know, I need to try this one-handed. I mean, just in the spirit of a G-body. Not exactly what I wanted to do. I don't like these seats. It's like it likes you more than it does me. Oh yeah.
Just so you know, I got plans this weekend, and none of them involve a hospital.
Right. Well, we ain't got crazy yet, so don't be worried. I'll let you know. Well, for our final test, we've dropped ourselves a few cones out and about for a braking pop quiz. Now, what's gonna happen, Joel's gonna run down there, turn around, come back this way, and get the car up to 50 miles per hour. Once he crosses these four cones running across this way, he's gonna drop the anchor and see how far it takes for that car to come to a complete stop. But we don't have any idea how well that Olds is gonna do. Time will tell.
Now, I'm not sure what kind of maintenance this thing has had its whole life, so I'm assuming probably the calipers and the pads are probably in fairly rough shape. Guess we won't really know till we do it. So here we go.
After those 3 obstacle courses, pretty much the conclusion that we've got across the board is mediocre.
Yeah, we definitely got a lot of work ahead of ourselves, but the aftermarket support on these G-bodies is pretty stellar, so we can go pretty much any direction we want.
Well, after a day like today, I do believe we deserve a good cold something. What do you think?
You're not wrong. Should have took your advice on that aloe vera.
Yeah, you're gonna need some salve somewhere, buddy. You went from pale to pinkish.
And I know better than that. That's the dumb thing.
You know, bad decisions make great stories.
Truth. Coming up, we break down our plan of attack and show off some legendary eye candy.
That joyride exposed a few areas that need some attention with our Oldsmobile, but it's really not a surprise because it's simply a product of its time. At first glance, it's easy to see that an 83 Hurst Olds definitely has a unique personality. The black body with the accents of silver and red stripes could lead one to believe it's a performer. But it falls a bit short, so we devised ourselves a plan, and we're gonna up the performance, attitude, and attraction. This 80s rocker is in need of a heart transplant. A few of you OGs are probably saying, oh, I bet they're gonna put an LS in it, and are rolling your eyes. The LS engines have plenty of benefits, but we're keeping it Oldsmobile.
This hopped up power plant makes 500 horses and 540 foot-pounds of pure tire shredding torque. And it's been operated on by some highly skilled hands, including that of Dr. Olds himself, Mr. Joe Mondello. The addition of this big block Olds paired with the curb appeal of that G-body is gonna equal a whole lot of fun.
One of the most iconic features of this G-body would have to be those lightning rod shifters. To discard those would be a disgrace. So we're keeping this thing an automatic.
We're gonna be running significantly higher than factory power. Therefore, we're gonna need some reinforcements because quite frankly, that stock trans just ain't gonna cut it. Overdrive is also a must. That way we can have the best of both worlds, performance and efficiency.
The stock rear is a tiny 7.5, and to leave it under there is just a bad decision. It might handle the torque from that big block a few times, but it's not gonna like it very long. To withstand all the abuse that we plan to throw at this thing, we've decided a 9-inch was in order.
We've got plenty of go fast goodies, so you know what that means. We're in need of some serious brakes. These drilled and slotted rotors paired with these 4-piston Wilwood calipers should definitely get the job done.
Driving this thing around, it rode nice, and as far as cornering goes, well, it wasn't terrible, or was it? A Hurst Olds has an upgraded suspension over a standard Cutlass, but as things normally go, they can always be better. Plus, this thing looks like it's sitting on jack stands. Altering the ground clearance would give it an attitude adjustment to complement the performance we're shoehorning under the hood.
So, it's out with the old and in with the new. This setup will give us adjustability on all 4 corners, way better handling, all while retaining one smooth ride.
As for the interior, cars of the 80s had a certain style to them. A word that can be used to describe them is plush. Overall, our interior is quite nice as far as condition goes. Deep red upholstery is common in the hot rod world. However, all velour maybe not so much. This Hurst Olds has lived a pampered and sheltered life, but the reflection has some imperfections. The graphics are starting to deteriorate and show their age. The paint is clean, but needs some serious TLC.
But that's no issue. A little rubbing and buffing will rejuvenate that menacing vibe that these black cars are known for. All these parts laid out on the floor, coupled with some hard work, is our solution.
When we're all said and done, we're gonna have ourselves a bona fide G-body that's gonna do it all. Steer, stop, and runs like hell.
Sorry. Up next, we ditch middle-aged metal for some high-tech touch-ups. Dismantling the rear suspension on one of these old G-bodies is fairly straightforward. You got a couple of stop lines to unhook, including the parking brake cable. Then, once your sway bar, shock mounts, and control arms are freed up, you're ready to drop the rear axle.
That's what they look like.
After prying, fiddling, and tossing what's left of our front suspension, it's time to lay down some rust preventative paint, as well as a rubberized coating for a nice, clean undercarriage.
We've been busy with all of our suspension laying there under the floor. We gave the underside of our Hurst Olds what I call a trucker's bath and even sprayed on some black to dress things up a bit.
After ripping through the cones in this old G-body, it became very apparent that an overhaul to the suspension was in order. There was often times when it felt like we were floating on a pirate ship in the middle of the Atlantic. Our solution was to try and find something that would give us the smooth operation of a luxury sedan, but the performance of a track car. This air suspension setup we got from Ridetech gives us the best of both worlds. At the heart of the beast lies the monotube air shock with 24-position rebound adjustment to fine-tune your driving preferences. At the push of a button, we can lower the ride height for a lower center of gravity, or soften everything up for cruising down the highway. We also opted for the tubular upper and lower control arms for high-speed stability and steering feel. Lastly, these 2-inch drop spindles will tuck those custom black wheels up into the fender wells for a much more aggressive stance. To make room for our air suspension, a little slicing and dicing is required. This is to ensure there's enough space around the air shocks to inflate and deflate as needed. However, the new upper and lower control arms are designed to bolt right into place of the factory originals, making the installation of the drop spindles a total breeze.
Worn steering components can cause several issues, make your tires wear funny, and seem like the steering wheel is a little bit lazy. Now, depending on the amount of wear, it can also be downright dangerous. With our Olds, it's got some age on it, and the front components that we took out, well, they were on the verge of needing to be replaced. So reusing that old stuff is a bad idea. We've got an upgraded setup from Ridetech. It comes with your aluminum sleeves, rod ends, tie rod ends, center link, and the idler arm. I'm all over the place, Mo.
One of the easiest upgrades you can do to your suspension setup is swapping out your sway bar. Now, these old G-bodies back in the day came with a variety of different sizes based on your performance package. This one in particular that came on the Hurst Olds was definitely beefier than the rest. Measuring in at 1.25 inches in diameter, it's no doubt one hefty hunk of metal. However, as always, the aftermarket finds a way to one-up the OEs. This 1 3/8 bar we got from Ridetech will give us better than stock stability, but we do have to use adapter plates in order to mount it to make up for that increase in diameter. Once the adapter plates are bolted into place, the sway bar can be secured to its forever home. A couple zips with the impact on the end links secures outside stability.
One of the last upgrades that we're going to be installing on the front of our Oldsmobile is some brakes. We got a full setup from Wheelwood, including their drilled and slotted rotors and 6-piston calipers that we found at Summit Racing. Once we get those on, well, we can move toward the rear.
Coming up, we inflate the ego of our Hurst Olds. Well guys, we're all finished up front. Now it's time to tackle the rear. You know, one of the most important upgrades you can do to your project is making sure you've got enough rear axle to support the ponies that you're pushing underneath the hood. This built-to-order 9-inch setup we got from Quick Performance features a 1/4-inch walled axle tube, custom aluminum fill plug, 350 gear ratio, and of course, Wheelwood disc brakes. Now we've already done a little bit of pre-assembly and got our brake system already set up because it's easier to do it on the stand opposed to underneath the car. Our next step is to go ahead and pop out these OE style upper bushings and replace them with these aluminum spherical style that tie into our air ride system. Pulling these rubber bushings will give us a number of advantages. The larger aluminized surface area gives the rear axle a sturdier foundation, allowing for less tire wear and more traction. With 540 foot-pounds of torque pending from our big block power plant, we'll need all the help we can get to keep this G-body between the ditches. Watch your noggin.
Come on with it. All right, hold up.
With the new rear axle in place, it's time to bolt on all the goodies. Okay. Just like in the front, the upper and lower strong arms bolt right in with all the hardware included. After a quick once-over that everything is high and tight, the car goes up for a tag team install of the new heavy-duty rear sway bar. A couple of the final and most crucial components of an air suspension setup will be your tank and compressor. The Ridetech E5 AirPod offers an integrated pre-wired solution that comes with dual compressors as well as a high-flow air valve solenoid block for smooth air shock balance. The kit also features a 3.5-inch LCD touchscreen display monitor for user-friendly plug-and-play adjustment. Best part about this whole setup? Ease of installation. Drill 4 holes, she's ready to mount. All right. Now there's a couple things you need to consider when you're deciding the final resting place for your compressor. Number one, making sure there's enough space around the compressors to reduce heat buildup. And number two, you want to make sure that the tank doesn't interfere with the hinges on the deck lid, otherwise it might not close properly.
With our plans of throwing some serious performance into that Hurst Olds, we knew we were going to need a tire that could handle that power. These Continental ExtremeContact Sports should do the trick.
Continental ExtremeContact Sport tires are engineered and tested by actual professional race car drivers. They come complete with Sport Plus technology to help provide responsive handling, better grip, and extended tread life. With its specialized compound and asymmetric design, the ExtremeContact Sport is built for the ultra-high performance that we need. We'll be running 235/40 CR18s in the front and 255/45 ZR18s in the rear to help achieve that iconic hot rod rating. Well guys, we've definitely had some fun swapping this crappy old suspension out for that slick new air ride setup. And those tires and wheels really bring out a new stance and luster into this G-body. And of course, Tommy's not around for any kind of cleanup. It's hard to find good help these days.